you ever thought, I wonder what the 10 most affordable states to retire are? Or maybe, I have no money for retirement, where should I move? If those are the type of thoughts floating around your dome, this video, the 10 best US states to retire on just Social Security, is exactly what the proctologist ordered. Now, like I said in a previous video, unless you live in your car or with your kids rent-free, it is nearly impossible to retire on Social Security without being on a few different government aid programs. All of the states on this list have great programs for seniors, they don't tax or hardly tax retirement, and they are affordable. So let's take a look at the 10 best states to retire on just Social Security. Number 10, West Virginia. If Social Security had a best friend, it might be West Virginia. Housing is famously low, with the typical home value being around $168,000. On the tax front, West Virginia has been phasing out its taxes on Social Security and is slated to eliminate them entirely in 2026, which is a huge finally for retirees. Pair that with the generally low cost in many towns, and you've got a state where your check can stretch without needing an Olympic level budgeting skill. Now, before we go on, West Virginia is not perfect. It's actually one of the worst states, but there are good people and it is terribly affordable. Like, you could honestly maybe buy a house and survive on Social Security. There are some areas in this state where you could buy a house right now that is livable. Sure, might need a coat of paint and you might have to do some other things, but it'll be under $100,000 and livable. I'm not talking about a shack you gotta chase bats and raccoons out of. There's a lot of open land and a lot of homes that people have just left behind that are for sale too, because this place was devastated by the lack of jobs. I mean, the coal industry died years ago, or it's slowly been dying, and this has left a lot of vacancies in the state of West Virginia. Now, they have a few, let's call them big towns, big cities, like Charleston and, I don't know, Huntington. By most state standards, these are not big cities, but those are going to be a little more expensive. You get out to the smaller towns and the rural communities, you will find good people, beautiful land, and affordability that you could pull off in retirement. Just stay out of the hollers. Hollers are little valleys in the mountains where generations of one family have lived for, hundreds of years, and there is not much going on in most of those hollers. At least not much you should be involved in, unless you're family. Do I think West Virginia is the greatest state to move to? No, not really. But is it affordable? And can you survive there on Social Security? I think so. Number 9, Mississippi. Yes, another gem, Mississippi. Again, not the greatest state in the country, but it is affordable. The Mississippi is the your money stays your money state in this list. Many forms of retirement income are exempt, including Social Security and pensions. It's been singled out as extremely tax-friendly for retirees. Housing is also low by the national standards, with the typical home value being about $186,000. The national average is about $420,000 right now. The trade-off is you'll want to be picky about where in the state you land, because cheap is easy to find. Perfect is more of a scavenger hunt. Actually, decent is more of a scavenger hunt. If you get down by the Gulf Coast, there's some beautiful communities down there, but they do get a little expensive. The outskirts of Meridian, where I have family from, that's a decent place to live. It is affordable. Got a lot of hillbillies out there, but it is nice to float down the Chunky River on a Saturday afternoon and drink beer. Things I learned while visiting Mississippi as a 15-year-old. And it is no secret that I have always told you that Mississippi is not a good state to live in. Well, it isn't. But if you want to stretch a dollar and you can't afford other places, it is an option. If you could afford to live someplace else, please do. But if you can't and you're on Social Security alone, Mississippi is a perfect choice. Sort of like not having a date the night before prom. Suddenly Edgar that rings the bells at the church with a lazy eye and a hunchback becomes a pretty good choice to go to prom with. One of the biggest problems about Mississippi is the poverty, obviously. Their schools aren't great, and they don't have really good paying jobs. But if you're retired, you don't need any of that. Unless you're some person that had a child when you were in your 60s, okay? I don't know how often that happens, but then you're worried about schools. Number 8, Alabama. Alabama keeps the basics affordable, and the tax vibe is retiree friendly. It's also one of the states called out for its low effective property tax rates, which is really helpful if you're trying to keep your monthly costs calm. The typical home value here sits around $229,000. That's statewide. You could find pockets where it's up over $500,000, but statewide it's about $229,000. There are communities out there where you could find a home for under $100,000. That is livable, move in, and plan on getting a new roof within the next 5 years. It's also a state with favorable treatment for certain retirement incomes and pensions. Alabama is a weird state because it's got a lot of poverty, but it's also got Huntsville. It also has great people that love to have a party, and they love their college football. Tailgating in an Alabama college football parking lot is amazing. I was like 25, went to an Alabama football game in the parking lot with my friend and his family and a bunch of people they knew. I was having a sweet tea. And this woman, older at the time, probably 35, was all, what are you drinking, sweetie? I was all, just some sweet tea. She goes, let me freshen that up for you. She poured, I think, bourbon in it, which was nice. And then she flashed me, but that's a story for another time. I did go to 3 games that year. That was the only time anyone ever did that to me. Besides all that, Alabama's a decent place to retire. Pick where you move to. Don't pick some lame city. Stay outside of major cities, and you could live affordably in retirement in Alabama. Number 7, Oklahoma. Oklahoma is sneaky good for the Social Security only club because it's not just affordable, it's also straightforward on taxes. Oklahoma does not tax Social Security benefits. Typical home values are about $214,000, which keeps the housing line item from eating your whole check. Property taxes are often described as relatively low, which matters more than people think once they stop getting paychecks. Now again, Oklahoma, not the greatest state in the country, but if you are looking to stretch a dollar and live on Social Security with a little bit of help, it is a great option. Over the years, mostly people from the eastern part of California have been moving to Oklahoma. It's very similar in both politics and terrain, I guess you could say. Dusty and dirty. Now, Oklahoma and Tulsa do get a little expensive, but not expensive like California or New York expensive, or even Florida expensive. If you want to live in a big city, these are 2 of the cheapest big cities to live in the country, but if you're trying to live on Social Security, you might want to head out to the outskirts a little bit and stretch that Social Security check till it screams. Number 6, Arkansas. Again, not a state I normally recommend unless you're going to the northwest corner, but Arkansas is a beautiful state. Stay away from a few cities like Little Rock, Pine Bluff, Conway. Actually, that list goes on and it's longer. It's probably easier to tell you where you should move to, and that is just about any place in the northwest corner. Arkansas tends to work well for retirees who want to lower housing costs without living in the middle of nowhere unless they actually want to. The state does not tax Social Security, which is a big headline if that's your main income source. Typical homes go for around $216,000. Again, statewide, that's just the average. You'll still want to watch how your retirement income is handled. IRA, 401ks can be taxed. But for mostly Social Security lifestyles, it checks a lot of boxes. Like I said, this one's a little bit weird. I don't recommend moving to most of Arkansas, but if you could pull it off in the northwest corner, few other small pockets, it's not a bad place to live. Number 5, Kentucky. Kentucky is a strange state. It's beautiful, they love basketball, horse racing, and a good drink. And it's not a bad place to retire. Kentucky is a classic, your budget can breathe here state. Typical home values are about $224,000. It's also among the many states who don't tax Social Security. Only a small set still do, keep that in mind. A lot of states right now are talking about eliminating Social Security taxes. So if you're watching this 4 years from now, which I've always thought is strange anyway, the state's giving you money and then they want some of it back. Wouldn't it just make sense to maybe not give you as much? I don't know. I think they should give us more, personally. But Kentucky won't win any awards for flashiness, but it absolutely can win I can afford groceries and still keep the lights on. All that being said, Kentucky is a state that you should definitely try out before you decide to move there. I mean, you should really do that all the time. Don't just take my word for it or some shiny brochure. Actually go to the states and check them out for a week or two. Kentucky especially, because Kentucky is an acquired taste, and some people move there and go, these people are due backwards. I can't live amongst these people. Number 4, Iowa. Iowa is quietly excellent for retirees from a tax perspective, especially if you're 55 and older. It's noted for not taxing Social Security, and it has become friendlier to other retirement incomes as well. Typical home values are about $225,000. It's a very stable cost kind of place, which is exactly what you want when your income doesn't magically rise because your neighbor got a pool. Now, the warning. Iowa is an extremely boring state, but if you're the type of person who doesn't mind that, this is a great option. Don't expect a killer nightlife. Don't expect high fashion and high-end shopping. They might have a little, but nothing compared to most states. Not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying if that's what you like to do in retirement or anytime, Iowa's not your state. Number 3, Missouri. Missouri is a lot like Arkansas. They've got places that you should avoid at all costs. At the same time, they got some really nice places to live, retire, or just stand around, I guess. Missouri made a big retiree-friendly move by eliminating state taxes on Social Security benefits. That's effective in 2024, so it's fresh for them. Typical home value here is only about $254,000, which, again, is well below the national average. So if you own a house someplace else and you move here, chances are you're going to have a lot of money left over for retirement. So you could survive on your Social Security and just pay the state taxes on your property. Now, Missouri's not the absolute cheapest on this list, but it often hits a sweet spot of affordability, plus enough city, suburb, and small town options that you could choose your flavor in peace and quiet. If you're new to this country, or you're just maybe young enough that you don't understand, I'm going to help you out here. All the states that touch an ocean are more expensive than the ones in the middle of the country. And if you look at what we've done so far in this list, most of them don't touch the ocean. West Virginia, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Kentucky, Iowa, Missouri. It's almost like everything is 10% more expensive, at least for states that touch the ocean, or the Gulf for that matter. Number 2, Tennessee. Tennessee is considered one of the most tax-friendly states in the nation, and it's not just for retirees. They have no state income tax, and that's basically the retirement equivalent of finding a coupon you didn't know you had. Tennessee doesn't tax personal income, and that includes retirement income like Social Security. Typical home values here are about $323,000. It has gotten popular over the last decade or so prices are going up a little bit, but Tennessee is still a great place to live outside of Memphis. I would like to underscore that with outside of Memphis. Memphis is a freaking nightmare. Do not go to Memphis. Or if you do, go to Beale Street for a few hours, enjoy some music, have a couple drinks, and then go back to your hotel room and sleep in the bathtub. That being said, Tennessee is not without taxes. Tennessee can make up for all the tax they missed with a really high sales tax. So it's great if your biggest monthly expense is housing, and less magical if you spend your money on retail therapy, okay? Retirees don't spend like they did when they were working, so this doesn't come into play as much as it would for a younger person. Tennessee's a great state if you want things to do, though. If you like the great outdoors, plenty of that. If you do like going to a pretty fun town, head over to Nashville. You like roller coasters and things like that? Pigeon Forge. Myself, Tennessee is probably in my top 10 someplace. I just don't know where of states I'd move to. Something after 5, I'm sure. But for a lot of Americans, at least over the last decade or two, it's their number 1, and they've headed there, not just from California, from all over the country. Tennessee is one of the few southern states that has never had a decline in population. Almost every single census, they gained double digits. Since 1790, they've only had 3 or 4 decades where they actually only gained over 5% and under 10%. That's a pretty good record. And that's how states should be. They should always be growing. That's just how it happens. When your state doesn't grow for a census and actually loses people, that's when there's a problem. It may be 1%, maybe 0.5%, but if it's not going up, you got some problems. And Tennessee has never had those problems. They got everything from young people to retirees heading in there. All right, before we get to number 1, if you're thinking about moving to one of these states, there is a link for Home and Money in the description area below. They can get you in touch with a real estate agent anywhere in the country. They can help you out with a whole bunch of other things while you're moving and looking for property or looking for a house. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, South Dakota. South Dakota is the simple and clean option. No state income tax, and retirement income, including Social Security, isn't taxed at the state level. Housing is higher than the cheapest states here, but still often manageable depending on the area, with a typical home value being around $308,000. If you can handle winter showing up like it owns the place, the financial side is refreshingly uncluttered. Now, we've ranked this video by the best states to live in of our group of 10 cheapest. South Dakota is definitely the best option. You just got to get past those winters. They can get brutal. It's definitely a winner if you like to fish and be outdoors, things like that. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Now go out, have a great day, be nice to each other.